Okay, so today we will discuss from where we left last in last class. So this we already discussed that what are convex and non-convex functions. So uh, just to make you remind in that sense, convex functions are those functions which have only one global minima, whereas non-convex functions have multiple local minimas and global minima. So the thing is, what happens is normally the optimizer, that the chance is that it can stuck into any of the local optimum points, and the line that you will get by from the line that you will get, that is the optimized parameter that you get for that particular line, will not be that effective as compared to if you get it from if that point stucks onto the global minima compared to that. So non-convex functions we typically try to avoid, but in certain cases like in deep learning and in other areas of machine learning, it's difficult to avoid these type of cases sometimes. So what we do is we try to use some advanced techniques to convert this particular function, which is a non-convex function, into a convex function, and we will see how we can do that, a little bit of it using regularizations. So we will discuss this technique in details later on. But before we go to this particular topic, we have to understand the basic concepts first and understand what is the need for doing regularization. So we will go step by step. So this is one of the techniques which actually convert the non-convex function to slightly convex function. It will not be completely convex, but it will be slightly better than the non-convex functions. So this we will discuss later on. So let's discuss today the second method for getting the the values of the theta 0 and the theta 1. This values we are looking for getting the optimized values of theta 0 and theta 1. So now the second method that we will use is using gradient descent, and we understood this particular method in our last class also. So today we will understand how to do the gradient descent. So as you know, this is the loss function that we already that I already explained you in our last class. So it's basically summation from 1 to the total number of samples, which are m, and what you are doing is you are actually calculating the difference of the predicted value from your model. This is the predicted value from your model, and this is the actual value. So you are taking the difference between the two and squaring and summing them up and then averaging out by 1 by 2m. So this is the loss function, and what you are doing, you are actually keeping the value of m theta xi as this. So this you already know, and please note here we are actually considering only single feature. Right, as you might be aware of this, that right now we are only using single feature. That's why we have one over here in the subscript. That is important to note, because this is the case where we are dealing with only single feature and not multiple features. So this is the loss function corresponding to the regression problem setting. Now what we do is we take the derivative of the loss with respect to theta 0, and we have already seen that also. So in our earlier slides, if you go, or in our earlier lecture you go, we have already done this derivative of the loss with respect to theta 0. So this is this one, and what we have done is we now divide, as you know that we have used 2 here in the denominator. So the use of using this 2 over here was just to cancel out these 2 which are getting out at this point. So that was the main job of using 2 here. It was just for the mathematical simplicity and nothing more than that. So the derivative of the loss with respect to theta 0 comes out to be like this expression, and you know that this expression itself is the predicted value, that is m theta x of I. So we can write this as this also in short form. So this is the derivative of the loss with respect to theta 0. So what we do now is when we use gradient descent on this theta 0, because the loss function is basically a function of two variables at this time. In our explanation, we took only one variable. So the loss is now a function of two variables, theta 0 and theta 1. So if the loss is a function of two variables, then you have to take gradient descent on each of these parameters, that is theta 0 and theta 1. Earlier for explanation I was using theta 0 equal to 0. So our loss function was a function of theta 1 and I was doing gradient descent on theta 1. But now our loss function is basically the function of two parameters. So that's why we have to do gradient descent on both of them. So when we are doing a gradient descent on both of them, then equation has to be looking something like this, as we discussed last time. So it is theta 0, which is the theta new, the new parameter, the new updated value of theta is equal to the old value of theta minus alpha times, which is the learning rate, times the multiplication of the derivative of the loss with respect to the old value of theta. So this is the equation corresponding to theta 0. So when you keep this derivative, which is given over here, if you keep this derivative in this part, which is here, then what you will get is this equation. Please note this equation is very important. So theta 0 is basically the new value of theta 0 is basically the old value of theta 0 minus alpha divided by m. M are the total number of samples, summation I running from 1 to m, and this. So this is the update rule for theta 0. What is the update rule for theta 1? It's also very simple. If you go back in our earlier lecture, we have already calculated this value of theta derivative of the loss with respect to theta 1. If you do a minor adjustment here, these two will cancel out. These two will cancel out. And if you do a minor adjustment of xi, if you take xi common, this xi is taken out common from here, then you will get this, and you can take xi out here, and then you have this expression here coming straight away from this part, and then this you already know is m theta xi. So this is already m theta xi, you already know this, and also this term and this term are common. So what you do is you take these two out, the x1 i's you take out, and what you are left with is inside this expression, and then you have outside this expression. So this is the derivative of the loss with respect to theta 1. And please note, this expression is similar to the expression of derivative of the loss with respect to theta 0, but the only difference is you have this extra term here, which is x1. That is the first feature, that is only the single feature that we have with x. So this is the important thing here, that is the derivative of the loss with respect to theta 1 has the theta 1, this 1 actually matches the feature that you have. That is also important because, as you know, we will see also, as you increase the features, these theta will also increase according to the features. So the number of features increases, theta also increases. So this one matches with this one, which is at the subscript of x. So this is the gradient descent equation. So we have to write now the gradient descent equation for theta 1, as I have already told that the loss function is a function of theta 1 and theta 0. So the gradient descent will be applied for this theta 1 now. What is that? Theta 1 new is theta old minus this times this expression. So if anyone has any doubts here in terms of the derivation that I have done, then let me know, otherwise we will move forward.
Sir, can you please show dl by d theta naught?
Okay,
Few slides back.
this way.
Okay, so there we don't have the theta naught term, just this expression. Then while calculating dl by d theta 1, we
Hmm.
multiply the theta naught part in the alpha by m,
Yes,
right?
yeah. So this expression, what I was having here is similar to theta 1, but we have, along with this, we have this factor multiplication here, which is this one. This is the one which is the extra term that is coming in case of theta 1. Understood? So this is the expression having extra term here, x1i, and this is because you can correlate with the with this one is having this theta is having a subscript 1, so that same will be here. Understood? this
Yes, sir.
this is just a simple derivation and some observation that I tried to tell you, and you will get to know more of it when we will discuss the another advanced version of this. Then you will come to know what I am exactly telling. So this is the derivative of the loss with respect to theta 1. So in case of
Sir,
yeah.
if let's say we had to calculate one more theta 2,
Uh-huh.
Then it would the equation on the right hand side would be same, but we would then multiply x1 and x2 both. Is that
We will see that derivation. That's what I am
okay?
saying. In the coming thing, we will have this thing coming out. So what we will have is, we will not have a multiplication. We will
Okay.
have 2 here. We will have 2 here, and this will be 2.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We will see that derivation. This is coming in our next slide. So that's why I'm saying, just wait for a while. You will get to know what I'm saying now. So this is
Okay.
this is a gradient descent when you are using single feature. This is important. So just to note that we are right now using single feature. That's why it's a gradient descent algorithm for this. And you know that this is the theta 0 we have just calculated, and then we have theta 1. So these are the two equations. So now I want to show you this graphical representation of how, these theta 0 and theta 1 are evolving with time, and how currently, you are evolving with time and get the optimized line, and along with that, how the behavior is changing on the contour plots. So on the bottom of the line here, this particular graph which I am showing you is showing you that how, this line, which is this one, this line, the pink line here, purple line, sorry, this purple line, how it is evolving with time when you are doing a optimization of this particular data set. So when you see here, this data line, this line is not properly fitting, because you initially started with some random value of theta 0 and theta 1 for this particular algorithm. So this line is not properly fitting. But as you progress further, then you can see that the line is getting close to the data set, and it's getting improved, and it's trying to minimize the error between the line and the data set. And as you go further here, then you will see it's getting much better, and finally, after a few iterations, you will see that the line is exactly fitting to the data set, and it's actually fitting in the sense it's a best fit, in the sense that the mean square error in this case is very less. That is the L2 loss that we are discussing. The L2 loss is very less as compared to the L2 loss it is making over here, and over here, and over here. So compared to all the L2 losses, this L2 loss is the best L2 loss, having minimum loss among all of them. That's why this line is the best fit line generated by the gradient descent algorithm. And the values that you will get for this optimal L2 loss will be theta 0 hat and theta 1 hat. So that one you can use in the equation like this to get the best fit for this particular observation. And similarly, you can see the contour plots on the top, where you know how this point, which is the initial point where you started out, and then when you moved to this point using in gradient descent, and how you are moving from this point now to this point, and from this point to this point, and finally you are reaching the optimal point over here. So all these points are corresponding to the theta 0, theta 1, which actually, you know, showing you here in the different version. So it's a contour plot, whereas this one is the normal plot which you normally observe. So I just want to show you some, you know, running version of this, so you can get a very clear picture of it. So here I have this, document, so you can see how line will be fitting, and you can see how the data points will be moving to the global minima. So I am running this, and you can see that. So now you can see how the line is actually varying, and it's trying to fit onto the data set. And on the same plot in the contour setting, you can see how the globe how the initialization which you had done here is going slowly to the global minimum, which is this one. So this is showing you a graphical, visualization of what I have, shown you in the slide. So if you have any questions here regarding this, you can ask me. Otherwise, we can move forward. So this is the picture of what I was telling you in the slide. Okay. So So now the important thing is, now we will discuss something more advanced compared to what we have discussed now. So the important thing is, now we will be discussing vectorization, and we will understand what this vectorization means and what is the motivation. That is the important thing. Like, in order to do something, we should have a motivation. Like, why we are doing it. Otherwise, if there is no advantage, then what's the purpose of introducing this technique? So here in this particular gradient descent setting, I have already explained you these equations. So can anybody tell me what is the disadvantage of these equations? What disadvantage you have in these equations? Like if we are doing it, then is there any problem here? Something like. Can anybody explain?
Sir, while going through all the training examples to calculate the new theta values, we have to use for loops, like
Yes,
multiple for loops.
yes, yes. So the disadvantage is this summation sign which is over here. That is one of the most disadvantage thing, because if the training examples are small, let us say 10 or 100, then or maybe 1000, then still okay. But as you increase the training size m to million examples, then what will happen is this summation will slow down the process. This summation will slow down the process of updating the theta value. It takes time. You can calculate yourself also. If you do a multiplication of two vectors, and taking the vector length, if you increase the vector length continuously, and then you do the multiplication, then you will do the addition, you will observe that there is it will slow down. I will explain you this thing here. So this is the vectorization technique. Actually, what we are trying to do is, now we are trying to remove this summation sign which is available over here, which slows down the updation process of theta 0 and theta 1. So what is vectorization technique? So let us say if you have a vector A which is of 3D 1 2 3. This have three components, and then we have B which is like, let us say, 4 5 and 6. So now if I want to implement this particular expression, which is summation of I running from 1 to, now n will be 3, A times B, then in for loop what you will do is, in normal programming what you will do is, you will use for loop. You will use for loop for I running from 1 to 3, and then you will do multiplication of a b in a temporary variable which you are setting it to 0, and then you are adding this ab into this temporary variable. Finally you are getting the value out, which is the multiplication of a into b. And the important thing is, as you increase the value of 3 to, let us say, 1 million or something like that, then you will see this for loop will slow down the process. So in order to avoid this summation thing, so that, or in order to avoid this for loop, what we do is we take help of linear algebra. So if you do a transpose b, let us say, in case of, if you take the inner product of these two vectors which are a and b, then you know that within a second you will get the answer. If you want to do a transpose, and that answer will be the summation of the product of these two vectors ab. So what is vectorization? Vectorization is how to avoid these summations in the program, so that you can use linear algebra to solve these type of things. Like how to use linear algebra to avoid these summations by using inner products of the vectors. And you can observe here how fast it is. And the important thing is, it's not magic also. The algorithms that are used in behind the libraries of this MATLAB, you might be using MATLAB or Python. It depends upon your area in which you are working. All these softwares like MATLAB and Python have highly optimized multiplication libraries inside. So what we are in turn doing is, we are actually making use of these libraries which are already there in Python and are highly optimized for matrix multiplication. So we are using the advantage. We are making their use to calculate these summation signs. Right now, what you are doing is, you are doing it by yourself. But now we are making use of the libraries which have already highly optimized multiplications, which speeds up the gradient descent if the number of samples are large. So this is basically called as vectorization technique. So we will see how we can convert our code, which is over here, these theta 0 and theta 1. We will see how we can convert this into a vectorization format that involves only matrix multiplications. So that is our objective now. So now, anybody having a question over here? Otherwise, we will move forward. Okay, so our main target is to convert these equation into a vectorization format. So let us see how we can do that. So again, right now, please note, I am using only one feature. I am not using multiple features. So if I am using one feature, it will be easily extended to multiple features, but you should know the concept of one feature first, and then we will go to the multiple features. So here you already know this expression. This is the model that we have created. And please note, I am writing it as m subscript theta xi. This theta, which I am writing in the subscript, is a tunable parameter. It's a tunable parameter which now you know already that this theta will be tuned according to the data set, and it takes xi as the argument, and this is the model m. So this is the representation that I am using for representing any model, which is, maybe it's a nonlinear model or any model which we will discuss later. I will always represent it by m theta xi. So this is theta 0 plus theta 1 xi. So let's do something in terms of the matrix multiplications so that we can, represent this particular expression which is given over here in terms of matrix forms. So if I represent capital theta as a two-dimensional, a 2 cross 1 vector which is given as this, if I represent it like this, and if I say that a capital Xi is represented like this, it's a single element right now, but you will see how it will get converted into a matrix form. But right now it's a single element, so I'm writing it like this way. So now what we will do is we will create a bold matrix capital X. This is the bold matrix which actually has transpose of this, transpose of all these elements which are here. So you know it's xi, so it will be x1 transpose, x2 transpose, xm transpose. So we will stack them into a matrix which we are denoting it by bold X, and we are writing it like this. So it's very simple. You are just feeding these, inputs to here. So this capital bold X matrix is also called as design matrix. And note that the dimension of this matrix is m cross 1. So what we are doing is we are creating a bold matrix which is a design matrix which has, on the rows, on the rows you will have, it will be samples, that how many samples you have, and on the y-axis you will have how many features you have. That is important. So on the rows you will have samples which are m, and on the y-axis, on the column side you will have features which are n, small n. So here you can see that the bold X is having a dimension of m cross 1. This is m, this is 1. So right now it's 1 because your features are only 1. We are considering only 1, that's why it's m cross 1. So now the second step that we will do is we will append 1 to this bold X. We will append 1 to this bold X that we have converted, that we have now. So this we are calling as X. On the top of it I am putting a small circle. So this is basically a appended matrix having ones in all the rows. So if you do this, then you will get this matrix. And the dimension of this matrix is m cross 2 because now the columns are 2. It's as simple as that. So if you want to access any of the elements of this matrix, which is x, on the top we have this dot. If you want to access any of this row, then what you will do is you will simply write 2 over the top, and then you will get a row out of it. So example here is like you have a second column, so it will be this. So this will come out and it will be here. And if you want to access any individual element, then you write on the subscript 2 here, then it will give you this x1 x21, sorry, and it will also be 1 here, I guess. Depends, like if you are using columns, if you are representing columns by 0 1 2 3, then it is then it is then it will be 1. Otherwise, if you are using columns as 1 and 2, then it will be 2 here. So you are accessing a particular element of this matrix, then it is this. Similarly, the y's will be, represented in this fashion. These y's are the labels, the true labels. These are the true labels, and these values are running from y equal to 1 to m, and the dimension is m cross 1. So now what we are doing is we are trying to come up with the matrix implementation of this particular equation. So what we have done is we have defined some preliminary matrix formats for this, and our ultimate or job or ultimate aim is to convert this equation which is given over here in the yellow format to the matrix version. So we have to come up with the preliminaries to do that. So this is what we are doing right now. So here I represent this equation again, which is the loss function we are already talking about, and then you represent this m theta xi with this theta 0 theta 1 xi. It's as simple as that. Earlier what I was doing was I was replacing this by this to reduce the mathematical complexity, and now I am doing the reverse. So it's nothing more than just a mathematical substitution. So here you have this loss function. Now the important thing that comes is now we will try to replace this by a matrix format. So what we will do is we will internally replace this particular you know uh, a particular expression by matrix. So if I want to do that, I can do that using the matrices that I have already defined. So you can see here clearly what I am doing is I am representing this particular expression by this expression. So you can see here that this particular xi, this is this x on the top, we have this thing x, and we are taking ith column of it, ith row of it. So I was telling you earlier that this thing is basically this. So what you are doing is you are actually taking the ith row. So it will be like this. It will be like this. So this is the ith row. Everybody agrees with this or not? So this is the ith row, and this ith row, what you are doing is you are taking this here, and what is your theta? Your theta is, you have defined theta as this one. This is the theta. So this is basically written over here, theta 0, theta 1. So when you multiply these two terms together, what you will get? You will get theta 0 plus theta 1 xi 1. So this expression is same as this expression. So what we are doing is instead of writing this expression, I am writing it in a matrix format which is given over here. And you can see the dimension of this also matches. So if you do 1 cross 2, 2 cross 1, you will get a 1 cross 1. And similarly, you have 1 cross 1 here, which is the y. Right now, please note, I am not replacing this by a matrix. It's simply yi. And you can see now that this I and this I is running from 1 to m. So you are summing. The summation problem is still there. Even though you replace the internal equation by this matrix thing, but the summation problem you are not able to remove. It is still there. This is also sometimes called as single vectorization because you have done only single step to convert this into a vectorization code which is given over here. So you converted it into one for single step of vectorization. It's not the complete vectorization, it's a single vectorization thing. So now we want to remove this summation sign. So let us see how we can do that. So now the thing that comes up is double vectorization. So you are applying vectorization on top of the internal vectorization that you have already done. So how can you do that? You can do that very easily by using this, which I have written over here. So what is this? This expression is nothing. It is similar to this expression which is given over here. So basically what you are doing is you are writing x square as x transpose x in the matrix format. We are using this type of concept here. So if we are using this, then the internals of this, the internal argument of this, which is given over here, can be represented like this. That is x theta minus y. So everything is matrix now. And please note, here now I am using m samples. You can see here, right now I am showing you here, this is the m sample. All the m samples are incorporated in this x tilde. X on the top you have this circle. So all the M samples are incorporated here. Earlier, when you see here, in this case, only ith sample was there and we were summing from 1 to M. So in order to remove this thing, we have to take care of all the M samples. So that M samples can be taken care if we use this matrix, which is the big matrix X. On the top we have this circle. Whereas theta parameters are still 2 cross 1 because you have only one feature. So now you can represent the loss function which we have defined over here in terms of the double vectorization code which is given over here. So this is the explanation. So any doubts here in terms of the explanation? If you have any doubts, let me know. Otherwise, we will move forward. And you can see the dimensions are also 1 cross m, m cross 1. You can cross verify yourself also.
Sir, can you please explain the double vectorization once more,
Okay, so
possible?
okay, the thing is, so here you the single vectorization you understood, right?
Yes, sir.
So the single vectorization thing is what you are doing is you are actually internally vectorizing the internal argument which you have already observed this side. Let me this one. So you have already observed this and you are actually converting it into this thing, which is this. So this is the single vectorization step that you have already understood. Now this the another important thing is how to convert this particular expression. Let me take okay, let me do one thing. So the next step is
Sir,
how, yeah,
actually,
yeah,
what I was confused about was the matrix which you took, the x and theta.
okay,
So, so if we have, let's say, two training examples,
okay,
not in the double vectorization, in the single vectorization only.
haha,
Sir, in this case, we had only one training example, so our matrix was mm, 2 cross 1 and 1 cross 2.
hmm.
But let's say we have two training examples in the single vectorization only. So now we have 2 cross 2 matrix on the left side and theta matrix, which is 2 cross 1 on the right side.
So
So which will also give us like
no, this matrix will always be 1 cross 2 because you are taking a individual element of the row of that matrix X tilde. You understand this one? You are taking the individual element of this big matrix. You are not taking the complete matrix, this one. You are taking a single row
okay,
one by one. Single row one by one. That's why it is indexed by I. So the dimension will always be 1 cross 2. You understand?
okay, okay,
Because
okay,
you are taking only single row out of it. That's why you have a summation here on the back, at the back, I running from 1 to m. So this dimension will always be the same. It will not change with the samples.
okay.
You understand? The only thing that changes is the summation sign. Oh, sorry,
So
the
the
running
whole
summation.
matrix which we are taking is on the double vectorization.
Yes, yes. The whole matrix that you are taking here is actually there is no I here. You observe that there is no I here, right? So if that I is not
Yes.
there, then and you can see the dimension here. You observe the dimension. Now it's m cross 2. Earlier the dimension was 1 cross 2. You understand? Because I am taking only single row and multiplying that with the corresponding theta to get the answer. But now we are actually combining all the rows of the matrix at the same time we want to calculate the answer. So if you see this, then you will have m cross 1 answers. Like you will have theta 0 plus theta 1 x1, then you will have theta 0 plus theta 1 x2, subscript 1, and then we will have, you will
Uh,
continue like this. You understand?
so one more thing, sir. In the same double vectorization, can we also do like theta transpose and multiply all the x's, x coefficient matrix x?
Theta transpose x you are saying, right? Like this?
Yes,
We
yes.
can do depending upon the convention that you are using. Right now, I think there is no problem here also. You can do that also, but depends upon your convention, like how you are defining your matrices, whether your dimensions are correct or not. So based on this, you can adjust. If the dimensions
Okay.
are matching, then I have no problem. You can do that also. But right now, for
Okay, sir.
my case, I have taken the matrices in this format. So this normally I have seen people using this also, but you can use this way also. Both of them are okay, and depends upon whether your matrix dimensions should be satisfied first. That is important. Understand?
Okay. Okay, sir.
So here we have this particular loss function which actually caters the summation problem that we had earlier, and this summation problem is completely removed by using matrix multiplications which are given over here. So now let us take the derivative of the loss with respect to theta. So now note that these thetas are not the individual
Excuse me, sir.
thetas. Yes.
Sir, I think there was one more student who wanted to ask some doubt.
Okay.
Actually, I overlapped him.
Okay.
What
Okay.
I was trying
Sir,
to ask.
actually,
Yeah.
the doubt was like this. I didn't understand like from how from single vectorization we move to double vectorization. So the doubt is mainly how that term looks actually. The transpose or non-transpose from X.
See, the thing is,
So I didn't.
if you are comfortable with algebra, then linear algebra, then I think it will not be a problem there. So the important thing
The
is what you do is you do a square. If there is a square terms that are involved, then in matrix formats you can write that in this way. You
Okay.
understand? So you consult back the linear algebra, thing, and there you can easily find out, how to do this type of thing. This is a very simple identity transformation that we are doing. We are converting x square to x transpose x to do that similar job. If x is a, if
Okay.
you understand, so there is no, there is no, mathematically insight anything over here. It's just the matrix transformation
Okay.
that we are doing. So you can look into it, and if you have any doubts, then do let me know. But I think you will get to know what I am writing over here. So it's just a simple thing. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Sir.
So
Sir,
yeah,
uh, X with a circle is basically just the original metric X with an extra column with all ones, right?
yes, that one.
So, what is the significance of that? Why didn't we simply use X instead of X with circle?
Okay. So the thing is, you must have seen this thing, right? Theta 0 plus theta 1 x, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
so this thing, in theta 0, the thing is the vector x, if you want to multiply this x with this theta 0 plus theta 1 x, this is 1, right? Plus theta 1 x here. Understood?
Okay, so
So
for the
this
sake
one
of
is coming
theta
out.
zero, okay, got
You
it. Yeah.
understand? So this
Thank you.
one is coming because of that. So we are appending it to make adjustments for this one. Okay, so we have this loss function here. So now what we will do is we will do some matrix transformations on this loss function. Basically, we will do some, we will make use of identities, and then we will solve this. So loss function can be further simplified like this. So what you are doing is you are taking transpose inside. So right now you have transpose on the top. So now you can move these transpose inside. So it will be this, and then you will have this and this. So it's just, the matrix algebra that I am doing it. There is no, insights here. It's just the manipulation of the numbers. And then you can further simplify it to this, and then you have this, and then you take the multiplications of these individual elements, and then you will have this first, then you will have this, then you will have this, then you will have this. So you'll have four different parts to this multiplication here. So once you have these four, then the important thing is you can retain it like this, but these two are same. As you can see, the matrix multiplication results into a scalar of 1 cross 1. So normally what we do is we combine these two together, and it will give out to be this answer. So here we are retaining the first one here. So what we are doing, these two are same, so we are adding them together and giving it to, it's a twice, and then we have y transpose y. So this is just you can go at, you can work around by yourself, and it will be easy. There is no problem here in terms of, if there was some doubts, then I would have definitely explained it. So this is just matrix manipulation that you are doing. So this is the loss function, and the thing is, now what we are doing, we are taking the derivative of the loss with respect to theta, and note that this theta is a matrix now. This theta is a matrix, and it's not a single value of theta. And also note that whatever is the dimension of the matrix we have here, theta, that is of dimension 2 cross 1, the derivative of the loss with respect to theta will also be of 2 cross 1. This has to be taken care of, and I think you must be knowing it. You are dividing a scalar with a matrix. You are if you do that expansion, it will be of same dimension as that of the original vector that you have over here, that is theta 0, theta 1. So once you do the derivative of the loss with respect to theta, what you do is you will get this expression. This is also coming from matrix algebra. If you have any doubts here, you can look into the identities, and you will get to know what I'm saying. So it's just this is theta transpose theta, and you have something in the middle, so it will come out like this with theta, because it's something like theta square. So if you do a derivative of a square quantity, it is 2 theta, so similarly it will be like this here. And then you take the derivative of this, so it is this one, because here is only single theta. So if you do the derivative, it will go out and you are left with this. So now the thing is, you will get answer as this, which is the final answer for theta. So the important thing is, you don't want to do any iterations like the one which we were doing here. We were doing step by step iterations, right? In case of gradient descent, if you see here, we were doing step by step iterations, like we were repeating these steps. So these steps will be repeated till minimum is achieved. So we are repeating the updates of theta 0 and theta 1 continuously till we reach the minimum. But in this case, what you observe is, when you represent it in terms of the matrix vector format, then what you observed is that you got this value of theta, which is the optimal value of theta given by this, and this theta optimal is the best theta you get without iterations. You just feed the value of these matrices that you have formed, and then you just calculate the value of theta, you will get the optimized theta. So this is as simple as that. So can you explain me that is there any disadvantage here or not for this particular thing? Like, here we are not doing any iterations, we are not moving we are not moving till we reach to the minimum. We are just calculating theta by this type of expression that we got. We have x, we have this x with our in our hand, we have y also. You just plug in and you will get the theta. Any disadvantage in this approach? Anyone can answer?
Sir, the minima which we calculated is based on this loss function, right? So if we have chosen our loss function in such a way that it has only one global minima, then it is fine.
Mhm.
But if in our loss function there are multiple minimas, like local minimas and global minimas,
No,
then
but in that case, as I told you, that that type of thing can be solved a little bit. It's not completely solved, but we can use regularizations there. So we will explain you that later on. But I just want to give a brief overview of that. So that thing can be replaced by multiplying with some term here, the lambda times the regularization, and this lambda can help us in getting solved this issue, and that can be done by that lambda will come here. So that lambda will come here. So if that lambda will come here, then this problem will be solved. But I don't feel that that is the reason for it. There are some other reasons. Can you explain that reason if you know?
When we convert individual values of x into a matrix and there are multiple features available, then maybe individual identity of each feature is lost somewhere.
No, no, it's not like that also. Somewhere or the other, you are close to the exact reasoning that why this method has a drawback, but that is not the exact answer. Okay, I will tell you the answer. The important thing that you observe here is that you have a matrix which is getting inversed, you know, right or not? So you are getting a matrix which is having some sort of inversion taking place. So the one of the reasons is that inversion, actually if you invert a matrix, it's a slow process. So one thing that you observe is the dimension of this matrix first. So the dimension of this matrix, if you see, it will be n cross n. This you check yourself, that the dimension of this matrix will be n cross n. And what are n? N are the number of features you are using. So if right now we are using 1 cross 1, then it's not a problem. But if you are using you know features which are right now, if you are using a features which are of multiple values, like the features become large, let us say 1000 by 1000. So in that case it will be a problem, because in when your matrix size becomes large, like if it increases to 1000 by 1000, then your inversion of the matrix will take lot of time. Taking inverse will slow down the speed. So if you increase the dimensions of this matrix, the inversion takes time, and theta hat that you will obtain will be, you will get in very slow, it will be slow down. It's not a fast process, the inversion thing. And second, as somebody also pointed out, that if the loss function is not convex and if it's something else, then what we do is we actually use a lambda term, which we call as regularization, to some way or the other sort out this issue. Some way or the other, it's not completely removed, but that lambda actually helps in, you know uh, uh, it doesn't help us in increasing the speed, but it helps us in solving some other problem that this matrix has. So there is one more problem actually. The problem is that normally that x transpose x inverse, what if this value is 0? Like the value of x transpose x, if some of the elements of that value will be 0, then what is the, what this will create? It will create a division of 1 by 0. So if that division happens, then what will happen is that your theta hats, the values that you are getting, will explode. It will go to the infinity, because the 1 by 0 situation is like, a infinity situation. And this normally happens, this one can you understand, is there any problem in this, any doubts in this explanation? Normally, this 0 happens because, when you do x transpose x inverse, you are doing it through some, some methods. Like there are some methods which we use, like for example SVD. So if you use SVD to do this inverse transform of inverse of this x transpose x, then the singular values that you obtain in this particular matrix can be, very small. It will be close to 0. So when you do a inversion, then it will be 1 by 0, and that creates a problem, because you are dividing this particular matrix x transpose y by a 0, then the theta value will explode. So that type of problems are there, and this divide by 0 problem, which is 1 by 0, can somehow be solved using regularization, which we will understand when we will discuss, later on. But this is the problem that we have when you are calculating using this method. Any problem? Any doubts here? If anyone has any doubts regarding this, then we can discuss. Okay. So this is the problem with this particular approach. So what is the solution? The solution is nothing but use gradient descent. Solution is that you use gradient descent, and this is also simple. You take the derivative of the loss with respect to theta for this particular thing, and this expression you are getting by taking the derivative of the loss with respect to theta for this expression. If you take the derivative of the loss with respect to theta for this expression, it will be very simple, right? It will be, it will be like this thing. This is the derivative of the loss. It's simple matrix algebra. You can cross check, and this is the derivative of the loss with respect to theta, and then you do a updates here. So now you see the important thing. The important thing is now there is no summation here. There is no summation here, and everything is matrix multiplication. And also note that this theta is a matrix which is theta 0 and theta 1. So both the updates, you are doing it in a matrix format, and everything is fast and speedy. So this is the gradient descent if you use matrix version of the matrix version of this. So this is the matrix version of gradient descent that we discussed here in the first equation, from where we already from where we started. So this is the matrix implementation of this equation. Any doubts here regarding this? And here you can see,
Sir,
yeah.
all this explanation which are being done is for one iteration, right, sir?
No, no, no. You can take it for multiple iterations. This is just the explanation where the updates will be from I running from 1 to M. So you 1 to epochs. There is no. It's not limited to one iteration. You can continue to do this. Okay, till you get to the final
Till we
optimum value of theta.
okay.
And the other important thing that I wanted to tell is I missed it out here, but that was important. I forgot what I was telling. Uh, First of all, there is no matrix inversion, and also matrix. There is no matrix inversion also here. You know, you can see that there is nothing like inversion taking place here. It's just taking a transpose and multiplying with the x theta minus y, and there is no summation. That's why it's a very fast implementation of the gradient descent in matrix formats. So, the second important thing that we want to discuss now is the linear regression with multiple variables. So, right now, what we were discussing was we were discussing only single feature. As you know, we were discussing I and 1 here, only one feature. But now we will discuss multiple features and see how these expressions will change. As you might recall that these are matrix implementations, so most of these equations will remain the same and there will be no change. But the only thing that changes is the representation in which we are actually defining these matrices. So we will understand how we will define the matrices, whereas all these equations will remain same because they are matrices. So let us see what I am saying here. So let us say you have this table. Here you have, you are actually plotting the stock index price, which is the final value of y, and you have four features that actually decide this stock index price. So the four features that you have are year, month, interest rate, and unemployment rate. So these are the four features that actually decides what value of stock price it's having. So these are the four features and they are represented by, please note, they are represented by this x subscript 1, x subscript 2, x subscript 3, x subscript 4. So in this way you are representing four features. So this is the general expression which I am writing over here. So xi is the sample, which sample you are looking at, and subscript n is the which feature you are looking at. So in this way you define the things. So here the total number of features are 4 and the total number of samples that you are having are 24. If you see the total number of samples here, there are 24 samples. So if you want to get the value of this, which is x11, that means you are looking at the first sample and its first feature, then it's this one, 2017. So this is the answer. If you are looking at x22, that is you are looking at the second sample's second feature, then you will have this answer, 11. Can anybody tell me what is x35? Anyone?
2.5.
Yes, it will be 2.5. Because you are looking at the third feature, you are looking at no, x35.
There is no fifth feature, sir.
Yeah, good.
1357.
Yeah, no, its value will be 0. Why it is 0? Because there is no
It
fifth
doesn't.
feature. There is no fifth feature. And how about x34?
5.3.
It will be 5.3. So this is important. I wrote fifth 5, that means it's having 0 value. And if you want to write x24, then it will be a complete matrix. It's a vector which is given by this 24th vector, which is 2016 1 1.75 6.1. And note that what we have in the matrix dimension that we are using always, it's here in the rows you have features and on the x-axis you have, no, sorry, here you have samples, and in the x-axis you have features. On the columns you have features. This thing is important. The matrix dimension that we are actually working on, the bold X, no, sorry, not bold X, uh, yeah, bold X as well as the top we have the circle one, both of them. So right now this X24 is having this particular feature vector. So now we will look at linear regression with multiple features. So here we have, similar thing but generalized to n features. So you can see now how this expanded out. So earlier we had only these two terms, but now we have all these extra terms also coming up, and the reason for this is because you have more features in this particular problem, that is x2, x3, xn. So as we have more number of features, this expression, the the model expands. Earlier model was having only two terms, now it has n terms. And also note that as your features are increasing, in the same dimension your theta is also increasing, which are the learnable parameters for this particular technique. So as your features increase to n, then your theta also increased correspondingly to n. So we are using now we want to represent it into the matrix dimensions. As we already discussed, we want a vectorized implementation of this. So what we are doing is we are creating a matrix theta which is given as this, and please note the dimension is n plus 1, not n here. And the reason is this feature is not included here. That's why if this feature which we are calling as 1 is, if we include it in x, then the total number of features are n plus 1. But normally we do not include this in x because it's a bias thing. We will understand this later when we will discuss bias and variance, but because this one is not a part of the feature, because one is a constant, that's why we treat it separately. So now we have n plus 1 dimension cross 1 for this particular value of theta, for this theta matrix. What about this capital Xi? This capital Xi we have already discussed. It will be like this here. So this Xi, the capital Xi is given like this. This is same as the one which we discussed here. If you go back and you correlate it with this particular setting which we were doing it for single variables, then it's very same. It's exactly similar to that. So So this is the thing. So once you have this, then what you do is you take bold X, this bold X which we were already defining, and each of these will be transposed. Each of these X that we have here, which we have defined here, and the dimension of this is n cross 1. So what you do is you take the transpose of it and you create a matrix which is given like this. This is the matrix, and this is a design matrix. And what is the dimension of this matrix? The dimension of this matrix is m cross n. M is the total number of samples and n is the total number of features. So this is the design matrix that you obtain, and once you have this, you again append 1 like the one which we were doing in the single case. So it's just the replica of what we have done for the single case. So now you have this thing again coming up, and the dimension is m cross n plus 1. So this is the dimension for this. So it's just the same thing that we have done for single variable. In single variable, if you observe what we had here, we only had this term and this term. But now, because of the multiple variables, we have all these extra terms also along with that, because you have multiple features for this corresponding problem setting. So now your dimension is increased and it become m cross n plus 1. Earlier it was m cross 1, m cross 2. Any doubts here in terms of the conventions that we are using? Okay, so the loss function that you are using is same, it will not change. It will not change, it will remain the same. There is no change here. And you can cross verify by increasing the dimension of these matrices, that they will also follow that same, you know, um, same same matrix multiplication, even though you increase the features to n plus 1. Earlier it was 2, now you increase it to n plus 1, the dimension of this will still remain the same and it will be the same loss function. And similarly, if you calculate the gradient descent equation for this particular thing, it will come out to be like this. In case of unvectorized format, if there is no vectorization that is taking place, then the gradient descent will be here in unvectorized format, but for multiple features. So now the student who was asking me earlier, he can note down the difference here. So here the difference is that whatever theta you are working on, that is indexed by j, that same feature will be there. So in case of theta 0, when you were updating it with a single feature case, you had x which was given like this. So this was 1 in case of theta 0. That's why when you were multiplying with m theta minus y, you had 1 here, and it was nothing, it was simply 1. But when you were multiplying it with, but when you were updating it for theta 1, it was m theta minus y, then you had 1 here, and this one was coming because of single feature that you had here, so that came this side. But in the multiple feature case, whatever theta you are currently working on, the indexing of that j is the same as this j, which is the feature at which you are working. Now it is clear, this thing. Any doubts here with respect to the gradient descent that you are doing for multiple features? Any doubts? Okay, so if there is no doubt, then you can see that the vectorized formulations for normal update as well as for gradient descent, the normal update that you were doing earlier as well as the gradient descent, the equations are same, there is no change. And you can check the matrix multiplications, they all agree. Even if you increase the dimension of the columns of x tilde x this thing from 2 to n plus 1, it will still remain the same and it agrees to the matrix multiplication format. So both these equations that we have derived earlier are still there, valid. So if you have any doubts related to today's lecture, let me know. Otherwise, we are already heading up towards 9:45, so I think it's ideal time to close today. Any questions? If you have, let me know. Any questions? Okay. So if you do not have any questions, then we can close this class today. And in the next class, we will discuss another versions of these linear regressions and see how far we can go into this. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank
Thank you, sir.
you.
Sir,
Yeah.
I had one question,
Yeah.
which is like from another course. So it was like if we have multi-dimensional data, more than 3-4 dimensions, then also can we use linear regression?
In multiple dimension data, yes,
Yes.
you can use it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then to see how the data looks, we don't have any option, right? Because
Yeah. No, that
that
in
is
that
like
case you can project it into the low dimensional space. Like you can use some dimensionality reduction algorithms to see, like we have some PCA is available, then we can use TSNE. This is one of the advanced techniques in data visualization. You can use, you can take help of that type of tools which can project it onto the smaller space to get you visualize something. But it's difficult. But you can do it.
oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other question? Okay. Okay, then we will close this class today, and tomorrow we'll discuss. One more thing that I wanted to discuss, which is important in terms of the project, is that you will be assigned shortly the projects that you have to do, and that projects will be divided into some phases. The first phase will be project submission, initial submission of the report, and then you will have some evaluation that will be done internally after some time, that your TA will tell you in details, but it will be assigned to you shortly. So be prepared for that, and it will that project will run for your complete course. So the important thing is you have to decide yourself among the team members. Like, we want ideally four students to be in one team. So you decide among yourself who wants to work on that project. So decide among yourself, among at least for the teams you can decide, so that once the project is assigned you can immediately take that. And the projects will be first come first serve basis. We will give a you know um, Google Doc on which the projects will be written. So whosoever writes onto it first with their project group number, it will be assigned to them. So there is no special thing for any one of you. It's first come first serve basis. That is the thing that I wanted to tell you. Thanks for the class, and we will meet next time.